Hello everyone. So you don't quite get away scot-free from not seeing me this week. I'm recording this very casually from home, as you can clearly see. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of FaceTime and just clarify what I want you to do this week. I'm giving you three short ghost stories. Um, One by Daniel Defoe, who we could argue is probably our first novelist in the English language, if not our first novelist. And the other two by very important writers. One called Walter Scott, who I know some of you know, and the other called James Hogg, who you might not have heard of, but is nonetheless a very important writer, not often read, but you could qualify him as a bona fide literary genius. I think we could use that phrase for him. Anyway, let me show you roughly what I want you to do and where I would like you to do it. So, I hope you're impressed by my technological whiz right here. But if you come up to this corner right here under week 6, this is where I put our stories. Daniel Defoe's famous ghost story about Mrs. Veal is one of the very first, if not the first, published ghost story. It's really unusual. It pretends to be real, and in fact, there is some kind of facts interwoven into the story, and it's playing with this idea of, how we test ghost stories. So do you believe it? Are you looking at evidence? Is the evidence reliable? Are the people who are giving the evidence reliable? And it tests all this kind of stuff. But it's a story that, amongst other things, is meant to inspire, faith and questioning of the afterlife, and is engaging with a contemporary argument about whether there is an afterlife, and if there is, what would we look like? This was the piece I got you to read over the weekend. And it gets a little kind of personal in terms of how you personally feel about ghosts, and if we came back, what would we look like? Do we ever really leave? And just to kind of distill for you what that piece was about that I gave you over the weekend, the debate centers around the personal individual's soul and its relationship to the body. And part of the argument is, well, if we have a human soul, and that soul is shaped through our physical endeavors throughout the life, so, the aging process, your experiences, your traumas, your loves, all these different things go to shape who we are and to shape our human soul. Would that then translate into how you looked or how you manifested if you were to come back as a ghost? So one side says it does, and the other side says no, the human soul is completely separate from the human body, and it should be considered something holy and divine and completely ethereal. And you can see how that might be more institutionally religious, right? Anyway, we'll talk about that next week, but this is what Defoe's piece is looking at. We meet a ghost, we think, and it's recognizable as a human being. The ghost points to specific texts that she has read during her lifetime. So, by relation, Defoe is pointing us towards those texts as well. Anyway, so that's the Mrs. Veal story. The other two, so I wanted to give you these two stories because, first of all, I wanted to introduce you to Scott, because we're going to read Ivanhoe. And second of all, Hogg is just an amazing author, and I'll explain his background next week. Aunt Margaret's Mirror is just a sampling of this enormous body of work that Walter Scott produced during his life. So if you come to Scott and Hogg Resources right here, which I think I have up already, I put some links up for you so that you can kind of browse. I don't need you to go through each and every one, but the one you probably should read, although I'm a little embarrassed about it, is this piece right here, which, so a couple of years ago, I literally Google searched Walter Scott and James Hogg, and this page came up. And I read it, I thought that's perfect for class. And then I remembered that I actually wrote it. So, I wrote this when I was a master's student at the University of Edinburgh working on a very special Walter Scott collection. I don't want you to read it because it's mine. I want you to read it because it gives a good context about the two writers. Okay, so I'm hoping you realise I'm not trying to show off too much. And then this website here is a very important website for Walter Scott. And I did actually, well, this is the same website, but this is the homepage. I did actually work on this. I digitized all the images on this website. Again, I don't need you to look at all the images. This is what my book is based on, my first book. So it will just give you good background. And then to give you background on James Hogg, I put something up from the University of Stirling, which is another great Scottish university where my wife went right before we got married. So, and this will just give you some background about James Hogg, who's a really important, really influential author. And what I've done is I've given two comparative ghost stories, and I want you to look at the technique. Scott's is longer. A tip about reading Walter Scott is read him fast. Okay, don't get bogged down in the language. Don't try not to get bogged down in the detail. There's a style of writing, but there's a way of reading it too, and I would suggest you read it quickly and get a sense of the story. James Hogg's is much shorter. It's a couple of pages. It's very dense if you read it appropriately, but I'll take you through that next week. What I want you to do is to kind of think about and examine the different ways in which these two stories are told, and then see if you can make any comparisons back to Defoe's model. So Defoe was writing 100 years before Scott and Hogg. So Defoe is writing early 18th century, Scott and Hogg are writing early 19th century. It's kind of important to remember. And I will try and explain the stories as best I can next week, okay? So have fun with them. These are ghost stories. That's partly why I give them to you, because they're kind of fun, and nonetheless, we can take them very seriously as works of literature too, and it's good like nuggets of two writers who are very important to our particular field, especially in the study of British literature. The Friday homework will go up as usual this week, and then again next week. Don't worry about reading Robinson Crusoe. I'm going to figure something out. I think I'll probably do either handouts or something. So I just want you to work on these stories. I know you're writing your papers as well, so please have those ready for Monday. I'm hoping to be there on Monday. If I can't, I will email you guys as soon as I possibly can. Okay. So happy reading. I'm going to put up a very short post on Scott and Hogg. I'm going to put up some lecture notes that I have for my online 315 too. But this is all just to kind of give you context and stuff. So email me with any questions you have. Happy reading, and I will see you guys next week.